Welcome into another edition of the Creighton Basketball Newsletter video. I'm Jon Nyatawa, here to break down the latest in Jays hoops, and unfortunately, only some bad things to talk about. It was probably the most disappointing week of the season for the Jays last week. The last two games, obviously, Creighton lost. They're on a two-game winning streak at this moment that I'm recording this. Lost to Butler with a disappointing second half, and then the Xavier collapse, something that you rarely see in basketball, honestly, having a 17-point lead and end up losing by 10. 17-point lead at halftime, end up losing by 10, getting outscored by 27 in the second half. The Jays were on the wrong end of a complete reversal of fortune against Xavier, and there are a lot of things that Creighton has to work on because of that. So it's a tough moment for Creighton, and I think probably for a lot of fans who were hoping that, and probably the players too, honestly, they were hoping that they were turning the corner a little bit. You know, just 2 weeks ago, Creighton blew out St. John's, hit 14 threes, looked great. The DePaul game didn't start well, but Creighton showed some toughness and some resolve by and some ingenuity, you know, figuring out how to turn that game and seize control, and they won that pretty handily, the Jays did, by ratcheting up their intensity, making a few tweaks, even without Greg McDermott on the sideline. It was a win that showed their mettle a little bit and their togetherness as a team, as a program. So you had those two games, and I think you're feeling pretty good. Creighton's 4-2 in conference play, in position to make the NCAA tournament, and then obviously a couple duds, a couple low points. So it'll be interesting to see how they recover. I mean, honestly, the roller coaster, they're still riding it. And that was sort of what we talked about at the start of the season, that there were going to be a lot of highs and lows this year. And while, you know, the hope and the desire was for Creighton to kind of pull itself out of that roller coaster, maybe even things out to become a little bit more consistent, the fact is the Jays have some flaws that are just not going to be able to be repaired at this point in the year, because of the youth, because of the, you know, just the inexperienced guys not being in this role, this situation before. There are going to be things that the Jays are going to have no answer for. But there are things that they could probably emphasize a little bit more, to play to their strengths a little bit more and bring some more confidence and toughness to the basketball court. So I'd like to see, obviously we're eager to see how Creighton responds. I mean, it's one of their most disappointing weeks of the season. I think the most disappointing week of the season against Butler and Xavier. And you follow that up with probably the most challenging week of the season, with two road games. I mean, Creighton's going to leave campus Monday and be on the road for 5 days. The Jays play at UConn on Tuesday and then play at Seton Hall on Friday. So that's two NCAA tournament teams, most likely. Seton Hall's kind of slumping a little bit, but a lot of veteran talent, a lot of physicality. That team probably will be playing with a lot of urgency now that the calendar's flipped to February and the Pirates have been off to a slow start. So I still circle that game as a really difficult matchup for the Jays. UConn's a top 25 team and has hopes of winning a Big East championship. So to me, it's the toughest week of the season, and you know, comes on the heels of the most disappointing week. So it's kind of a gut check time for the Jays. They got to figure out how they respond, knowing that perhaps they may not get the end results that they hope for, but they got to show signs of progress so that they're in position. They're still in position to reach their goals, because the schedule is going to soften a little bit after this week, and the Jays have to be in position to take advantage of that and stay within the bubble conversation. And then when it comes to March, they can get an opportunity to get some big wins and to seal their spot in the NCAA tournament. So again, I'd like to see Creighton play to its strengths a little bit more. I thought last week the Jays got pounded on the boards, and they had been, up until last week, a pretty good rebounding team. In fact, they were fourth in the conference in rebounding margin. You got Ryan Kalkbrenner, who's been a force on the glass. Ryan Hawkins is really good there. Arthur Kaluma, Alex O'Connor are guys that can jump out the gym and grab the ball off the square. So as a team, to be out-rebounded by 10 against Butler and out-rebounded by 9 against Xavier, that's pretty disappointing for what they have shown this year. I think they can get, that's one area I think you can get better right away, just by a little bit more effort, a little bit more focus. And then the other thing that the Jays have been good at all year is scoring inside and defending that paint. against Xavier and Butler. Those two teams in the second half kind of did whatever they wanted. Part of that was because they hit shots. And Alex O'Connell mentioned it, that the fact that the opponent maybe hit some shots that it's not supposed to. Some of the guys that rose up and knocked down three-pointers maybe aren't high percentage shooters. They know the scouting report, thinking that they can get away with leaving those guys, giving those guys a little bit extra room. When they made them pay, they burned them. So that hit Creighton's confidence a little bit. And because they came in waves, Butler hit 5 three-pointers in a row. Again, this is the worst three-point shooting team in the conference, right? And then all of a sudden they're splashing in threes against you. That doesn't feel good. Xavier went 9 of 12 from 3 in the second half of that game on Saturday. And, 4 of those threes came from Jack Nunge, the 7-footer who wasn't shooting a high percentage from 3. Nate Johnson is a really good shooter. He hit 4. He got hot, so that's one thing. But he was hitting some tough ones, though, coming off screens, catch and shoot off balance. So you got to tip your hat to the opponent a little bit, but also Creighton's got to be a little bit better at knowing that sometimes opponents are just going to make shots, and you still got to maintain your integrity defensively, still battle inside, because while Butler and Xavier were making shots, they were also getting a lot inside, getting to the free throw line, scoring in the paint, and breaking down Creighton's defense really at all levels in the second half of those losses last week. So Creighton can be better there, and we'll see if they can find some answers, some tweaks to fix that. And then offensively, find a way to get some easy buckets. I think that's probably the biggest challenge. It's been the biggest challenge for this team all year because of the three-point shooting percentage kind of rising and falling, just not having a lot of consistency there. And obviously on Saturday, Jays hit shots, built a lead, started missing threes, that lead went away. So figuring out a way to have sort of that consistent scoring threat inside, whether that's attacking off the dribble, playing inside out, or going and working through your big men and allowing them to operate on the block. And some of that is just getting them the ball. That's been a challenge at times for the Jays. It's just post feeds, entry passes, lob passes, kind of connecting on those ball screen rolls, big men rolling to the rim, the timing of that. So there's some precision elements here that Creighton's got to be better at. The timing piece of it, spacing matters too. So there's obviously some work that the Jays have to get done, and they don't have a lot of time. Coach McDermott was pretty adamant about about the fact that he still believes in this group. He's confident in what they can accomplish, and he wants them to know that. He thinks they can get to the finish line where they hope to be, but it is February, and I think the COVID pauses from other teams really did. It came at an unfortunate time for the Jays because that if you could fast or rewind and say that this disappointing week happens at the end of January, well, what if it had happened at the start of January instead? Because think about Creighton went almost a month and played 3 games. So if you were able to pack more games and more experiences and get to that point in the roller coaster where it's everything feels like it's going haywire, but you get there earlier in the season, you have more time to make some changes. Well, that's just not the way the cards were dealt. The Jays are in a kind of a difficult spot with only 11 games left in the season and having to, fix some things and make some adjustments. And it's a really challenging league. Obviously this week is a case in point of that. But again, I think the coaches are really confident in what these guys can accomplish, and they've shown flashes. Now they just have to get consistent with it. So it'll be intriguing to watch. I'm curious to see how they respond this week, but also perhaps even more curious about the following week and the week after that, because you're going to take some lumps as a young team in a good league, but staying true to sort of your process. They knew it was going to be rocky at times. If they are truly sort of bought into that developmental process, knowing that the end of the road's going to be a lot of fun if they can get there, that'll be the key. Not hanging your head and keep battling and keep trying to improve. So we'll see if the Jays can do that. That's all for me for now. I really appreciate you watching. If you haven't subscribed to our newsletter, please do it. All you got to do is go to omaha.com/newsletters, put that in your browser, and you'll find this newsletter on your screen. Just click it and subscribe. Tell your friends about it. We got plenty of coverage on the Jays. Again, big week. They're all big, and there's a lot of games packed into February. So plenty of opportunity for the Jays to prove themselves, and plenty of chances for us to learn more about this group. So please follow our coverage as we chronicle their progress. So thanks again for watching. We'll be back here next week.